There are actually other clefs as well. I'm not going to expect you to read them this semester, but you should be aware of them. They're what we call C clefs. Here's an example of a C clef. Sometimes they also look like this. Again, they mean the same thing. Now with a C clef, the point of the clef indicates middle C. Middle C in particular, not just any C. Here are the two most common ones. One of those is the alto clef, and one of them is the tenor clef. Now most of you probably know this, but in case you didn't know, if you're in a choir, the altos have higher voices than the tenors, right? Usually altos are women and tenors are men, not always, but usually. And the altos are a little bit higher. So look at these clefs and try to think which one do you think would be the alto clef and which one do you think would be the tenor clef. Okay. This one right here is the tenor clef. Why? Because there's more room below the middle C here. So there's room for lower notes. This one here is the alto clef. There's more room above middle C for higher notes. There are some instruments, such as the bassoon and the cello, that actually switch between multiple clefs, including C clefs, when they're playing. And the reason is that those instruments have a very wide range. And so most players are not comfortable reading more than about 4 ledger lines in their music, and therefore they might switch clefs just to avoid a whole bunch of ledger lines. Now let's talk a little bit just about how notes look on the page and how you should write them. Much of the time this semester, of course, you'll be writing music using notation software that does a lot of these things for you. However, it's important to know the correct way to write notes on the page. For one thing, you might decide to write out your music by hand. And for another thing, anyone who sees your music that you write out by hand will think you know what you're doing. So, first of all, you may have noticed that the notes that I'm writing tend to be at a slight diagonal. If you look at these note heads, you will notice the bottom left is a little lower than the top right. Almost as if there was a diagonal line going through my note head. This may seem like a trivial matter, but it'll help you when you put stems on your notes. You know what I've been writing so far? Just notes without any stems. They're just clear notes, and we'll learn about what kind of notes those are in the next lesson. Right now, we're going to go over where you find different notes on the piano keyboard. This may seem a little bit strange right now because this isn't a piano class. However, the piano is a very clear visual representation of all of the concepts you're going to learn in this class, much more so than other instruments where the fingering is complicated and it's not just so simple as going up and down to find different notes. With the piano, it's very simple. There's one key for each and every note. So let's start with middle C. We talked about middle C before. Middle C is right here. You may notice that it is to the left of these two black keys here. Every single note that you find to the left of two black keys is a C. So anywhere on a piano, if you want to find a C, you black keys and find the key to the left. Now with the keyboard, in case you didn't notice, we go right to go higher, and we go to the left lower. So this is C. What do you think this one? It's D. And this one is E. And this one is F. And so on. So those are the notes going up. If we go to the left, C, B, A, G, and so on. Fs are also easy to find because you see these groups of 3 black keys. The F is to the left of the 3 black keys. So every time you see a group of 3 black keys, you can find an F. Why is this important, you may be asking? Well, because these are like landmarks. And if I asked you to find me an A, knowing either C or F, it would be very easy for you to find me an A. You might say, well, I don't know A, but F is to the left of 3 black keys. So here's an F. And then I just go up the alphabet. F, G, A. Here's my A. If I asked you for a B, you might think, well, I know C is to the left of 2 black keys, and B is 1 note lower than C. You might be wondering what these black keys are. Well, in fact, any 2 keys on the piano keyboard are a half step apart. In order to really get a good idea of what I mean by this, look at the tops of the keys. Don't look at the bottoms, because that can get confusing. So if I look here at my C, this note here is a half step above C. This note here is a half step below C. This is where we use sharps and flats, which I can show you momentarily, to indicate going up and down a half step. But just remember, any 2 keys that are right next to each other are a half step apart. It doesn't matter whether there's a black key between them or not. They're a half step apart regardless. You have a diagram of the piano keyboard on every page of your textbook, and I hope you'll take a look at it and try to find where all the notes are. But right now, just as a quick quiz, what note is this? Did you say it was an E? It's to the left of the F. What note is this? Did you say a D? I hope you did. It's to the right of the C. See, here are my 2 black keys. The D is to the right of the C. So what is this? I hope you said it was an A. 2 to the left or 2 to the right of the F. Let's do one more. Hopefully you said this was an E. Remember, the F is to the left of the 3 black keys. The F and E.